We have another question over here.
Conservation Security Program. It started off as a program to reward farmers for existing practices, the farmers that didn't put every available acre into corn and soybeans. Now it has evolved in a program that more and more of the money goes for change. In other words, more of the farmers who mainly don't have a history like that of sustainable agriculture are getting more of the funding. I'd like to hear comments on that.
Yeah, let me see if we can just rephrase this. The Conservation Security Program was something that was new, that was instituted in the last Farm Bill, and it was all based on what type of conservation practices a producer was employing on their farm. And then there was a payment scale based on it. The controversy came in it with, are you going to be rewarding good practice in the past, or will you only reward value added in the future? And that's something that we're still wrestling with. Obviously, when you've had some producers doing the right thing for a very long time, and then you establish a program, how do you look back and reward them for doing the right things while still developing added value as far as more conservation programming in the future? That's been the delicate balance in all this, is to encourage the type of sustainable practice that many producers have had, while also encouraging improvement across the board, so that we're getting the best bang for the buck. And it's something I know some of the counties and the FSA offices around here have been wrestling with, and we're looking to see how well it is working and what refinements need to be made. So another topic, and this gets back to across the board, if you care about these issues, and let me just get off my my lectern for a second and just say, you gotta weigh in, because we're up against some pretty powerful forces in Washington. I mean, EWG does a great job of getting information out, but they are just one small cog in a vast sea of powerful special interests out in Washington right now. And if you want to see how farm policy is made, it gets pretty ugly at the time of the Farm Bill passage, because a lot of money is being thrown around in order to buy a vote here and to buy a vote there. And all too often, discouragingly, you see that influence in the type of public policy that passes in D.C. I think what this movement has going for it is grassroots support and knowledge base that's starting to spread, not just across the nation, but across the world. But you can't be quiet. You can't be silent. You got to figure out different avenues of being able to let your voices be heard, so you'll also be able to influence the public policy as well as the big guys do right now out in Washington.
I completely agree with that. I think one of the big issues is we need more money in these kinds of programs. When the fight starts is where people are asking questions with a limited amount of money, and we just took another cut in the appropriations process, even though we had big promises about increase for conservation programs. First cycle of appropriations after the Farm Bill, what happens? A couple $100 million are knocked out of conservation funding. When I was in 1985, when I worked very hard to get the Conservation Reserve Program passed, and when I went back to my Uncle Paul's farm where I spent all my summers, it's a cow-calf operation in southern Missouri, and he said, let me see if I understand this right, Kenny. These, and he was a colorful man, my Uncle Paul, very colorful, and my cousin Cookie was there too, and he was colorful and also often wore a sidearm. And he said, let me see if I have this right. These guys that ripped up all their ground all around me and in northern Missouri, this hilly ground, to grow corn, instead of having pasture and hay like you're seeing out from our porch here, you're going to give them 50 or 60 or 70 bucks an acre to take it out of corn again and put it back so it looks like my land and I'm not eligible. Is that your new reform? Well, Uncle Paul, that's a darn good question, and I think I'll have another beer. You draw those lines, and that's exactly, I think, what you're talking about here. You draw those lines, and if you're not providing some way of acknowledging and rewarding and encouraging people who've done it right all along, and you're only rewarding the bad actors, when you've got a subsidy for bad actors, guess what you get more of? Right. So we've got to sort that out. I think sustainable agriculture advocates have done a great job developing these policy ideas, and one of our big problems is we need enough money so that we can do both. We do need to bring people on a transition if they're not doing the right thing to clean up streams and and protect wildlife and all the rest, but I think we also need to have a way, in addition to the marketplace for organic producers, a way to help out and reward those who've done it right all along.
David, did you have one?
Yeah, I've been going to several talks today where the global warming, somebody called it global heating, I would call it maybe a global meltdown was discussed, and you brought it together very nicely. But when we're talking about something like a global meltdown, which seems to be happening in real time as we sit here, it seems to me that the go to it, get it done America that took on Nazism and the Tojo, et cetera, in 1942 in real time and took it on in much shorter time than George W. Bush took on a losing war in Iraq. It seems like we're asleep at the switch. And all these things I'm hearing seem like we've got to wait till farmers' minds turn around. And at the same time, in talks today, I heard about Miami being underwater, all of Bangladesh being underwater, and it just went on and on. So is it a crisis or is it sort of a process?
All the data says we have no time to wait. It's more than a crisis, it's on us. And in fact, we have legacy levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere right now that just reducing emissions will not take care of the problem. So the legacy levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere are going to follow us for as long as we think we can survive it. And I think that the challenge, of course, is we have to act now. And that's where it strikes me that any policy we move, which is a long, slow process, as many of us know, and certainly the Congressman knows, with lots of special interests, it seems impossible. But I think where it comes back to the action of the consumers and of the public citizenry here is really crucial to rise up now and demand this shift and change, as well as I say, support congressmen who are conscious and understand the data points and are really willing to stand up and try and work and push back against that. Understand where the legislative process is right now on the climate change bill of Waxman-Markey is that it's moved to the Senate side. We've got our work to do. All of us have our work to do right now with regard to that. I was very disturbed because when I went into Washington and went to the legislative staffers on Waxman-Markey, they were fine with putting in language that says we're going to measure carbon accumulation in soil and pay for that. But I walk into the House Ag Committee and they say, we know who Rodale Institute is. We know what your research is. But we have some other research here and we want to pay for conventional no-till and we want to pay for back to 2001. So that was a bought and paid for response, where a special interest is driving policy that's going to leave us with this legacy level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, adding to it every day, and no solution in sight. So it's incumbent upon us right now, with the sense of urgency you feel, the sense of urgency I feel, to take what science we do have and march it forward to try and effect a change, at least on the Senate side. And then I think we can help when the two groups come together, Senate and House, hopefully to hammer out a bill that makes sense and starts to address this issue tomorrow and not 10 years from now.
And so once again, for those of you who came in a little bit later, Tim LaSalle, Ken Cook, Sandra Steingraber, Ronnie Cummings, Genya Erling, Congressman Ron Kind, you have inspired us all. Thank you so much.